Am I on? Okay, I'm going to do a mono. Ask LAFCO staff administrators to administer the roll call. Please administer the roll call.
Thank you, Chair. Commissioner Jim Anderson,
Here.
Commissioner Roger Anderson, Vice Chair Joe Clark,
Here.
Commissioner Justin Cummings,
Here.
Commissioner Fred Keeley, Commissioner Manu Koenig, Chair Rochelle Lather,
Present.
Alternate Commissioner Kimberly DeSerpa, Alternate Commissioner Lonnie Faulkner, Alternate Commissioner John Hunt,
Here.
Alternate Commissioner Eduardo Montesino. Chair, we have a quorum.
Madam Chair, since Roger Anderson is not here, Commissioner Hunt will be a voting member.
Until he gets here.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. We could start with the executive officer's message, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a quick reminder that we are conducting this meeting under a hybrid model. So members of the public will have the opportunity to join us either virtually or in person. Members of the public also have an opportunity to address the commission on any agenda item this morning. For those interested in speaking, they'll have up to 3 minutes. We'll indicate when they have 1 minute left and when their time is up. Members of the public can, again, speak here in person here at the Watsonville City Chambers at the podium. For those joining us virtually, they can click on the reactions tab and then raise their hand there. Or if they're joining us via conference call, if you press *9, that will be able to raise their hand and we'll unmute them. And again, they'll have up to 3 minutes. Madam Chair, we do not have any commissioners joining us virtually, so a voice vote would be appropriate for any agenda item that requires commission action, but I'll defer to you if you want a roll call vote. That being said, that is a brief update on this meeting process. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so we will move on to adoption of minutes.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. We have a voice vote. So I can say all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Against? None. So we'll move on to the next item. And that is,
Oral
it
communication.
seems weird. You got to hold yourself close to hear. Oral communications, which is an opportunity for the public to provide comments on items that are not on today's agenda. I see Ms. Steinbrunner coming up, so let's.
Good morning. My name is Becky Steinbrunner. I live in District 2 in the mountains. I want to talk with you about some concerns I have about actions the city of Watsonville is taking to do quite large annexations. This is borne out in their 2050 general plan update. Your board actually has received that, and that's where I learned about this. The changes to the boundaries of the city of Watsonville as proposed on pages 6 and 7 of the notice of preparation for the environmental report of the 2050 general plan update is quite shocking. It would take a lot of agricultural land out of production, and it would possibly threaten the future existence of the Watsonville Municipal Airport. This airport is critical to the survival of this county's residents in times of disaster, especially. In the 1989 earthquake, when our county was isolated, it was the Watsonville Municipal Airport that supplied goods, services, medical supplies, and even brought in high-level dignitaries to view the damage. So we cannot allow any threat to the Watsonville Municipal Airport. One only has to look at recent actions in the Santa Monica City Airport that will now be closed the 107-year-old airport in Santa Monica that has served that area very well during times of disaster will be closed because the city allowed development, residential development near the airport, and people started complaining of the noise. And they complained long enough and loud enough that the city is now going to close the airport in Santa Monica. This pertains to what could happen in the city of Watsonville. And I ask you not to allow that. I did write Mr. Serrano with concerns that I had. I reread the 2023 City of Watsonville Sphere and Service Review, and I looked at the recommendations, and I wanted to know if they had responded to those recommendations. I will leave you with my concerns here because it was addressed to Mr. Serrano, not to the commission. So for the record, I will just leave that with you and say that I'm quite concerned about what future annexations are coming down the pike, according to Mr. Serrano. And Mr. Serrano, thank you for watching this general plan update carefully, but I am very concerned. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other public comments?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so then we will move on to the next item, which is the public hearing. Public hearing, draft budget for fiscal year 2026-27. Can you please provide your presentation?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll keep this brief. Each year, by law, LAFCO needs to adopt a draft budget and final budget before the end of this fiscal year. Long story short, the proposed budget, it's virtually identical as our current budget. It's just under or approximately $795,000. A full in-depth discussion about the draft budget is in your agenda packet. But this morning, I just want to give you the key highlights. As I mentioned, it's virtually identical to our current budget with just less than 1%. In fact, it's less than 0.5% increase to our current budget. And I just want to remind the commission that our primary source of revenue is from our local agencies. So the county pays a third, the 4 cities pay a third, and the 20 independent special districts pay the remaining third. So that is why your staff is very mindful of keeping our budget as low as possible, keep it lean and mean. And so as you can see on the table on your screen, if we do have any increases in our apportionment amount, we try to keep them frozen as much as we can. This is year 2 of us keeping the apportionment amount frozen. In other words, our funding agencies will not see an increase to their dues to LAFCO. It's going to be exactly the same of what they paid for in this current budget. Our total expenditures, no surprise for local agencies, the largest expense is salaries and benefits. But I do want to point out that our services and supplies bucket, that budget line item has decreased from last year. And this kind of shows the bigger trend is that our total expenditures have actually gone down these last couple of years. So this commission, I'm very proud with this commission of being able to discontinue the outsourcing kind of practice that we had in the past where we would have consultants do our mapping or our service reviews. That is now in-house. And as a result, we've seen some time and money being saved because your staff is equipped to providing those services internally. So that's why you can see that trend of our total expenditures going down over the last few years. Long story short, this budget is pretty much the same as our current budget. We also have a discussion in the staff report about our pensions. We're following this 10-year plan. So hypothetically, we would be able to pay off our total liabilities, our pension liabilities, by the year 2032, if I'm not mistaken, if we're continuing that trend. But nevertheless, this budget is something that continues our conservative practice of making sure that we really effectively utilize our funding agencies' dues to provide the best level of service to our constituents, which is the county as a whole and this commission. So with that being said, Madam Chair, staff is recommending that you approve this draft budget by adopting the resolution and directing staff to provide this information to our funding agencies. I will note that we did provide a draft copy of this budget and the allocations to the cities, the districts, and the county. We didn't receive any pushback, any negative comments. So this, again, this kind of shows you our good working relationship with our local agencies. But with that, that concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any public comments on this item?
Thank you, Mr. Serrano. Becky Steinbruner. I have a question about, is there going to be budgeted into this package possible assistance, financial assistance for studies that different jurisdictions need to do based on recommendations provided by LAFCO? We can look at the past examples of LAFCO helping to fund the Brents 40 Fire District's special assessments action. We can look at the LAFCO funding of the city, partial funding of the city of Capitola action, and also recently the Pajaro Valley Fire District coming for help. So what amount should be budgeted in there to plan for this level of assistance to agencies that cannot afford to do the complete amount of work that is recommended by LAFCO? My second question is, what professional services are budgeted in here? In the past, there's been professional services for water reports and also fire reports. And given the great amount of action, if you will, in the county regarding Pajaro Valley Fire and Felton Fire, possibly reorganization, and also within Central, Scotts Valley, and the city of Santa Cruz, it seems like there on the horizon, it could be a great need for professional services on the part of LAFCO to help see these things through smoothly. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other public comments?
Madam Chair, there's no other comments, but I do like to address the points that Ms. Steinbrenner brought up, if you
Okay.
allow me to. Under this current or this proposed budget, there is a budget line item for professional services, which is typically used to hire outside consultants. We budgeted $35,000, and I think that is an appropriate amount if the event that this commission wants to hire an outside consultant to do like a special study, which is something that we may be proposing later in this year. So I think that amount is already earmarked if this commission approves this draft budget. I'll also note that we currently have two consultants that are active right now. One is our legal consultant, so Best and Krieger, Josh Nelson, is currently providing us legal services, keeping us out of trouble. The other one is our auditor, Davis Farr LLP, who you'll hear a presentation later this morning from their staff about the second audit that they've conducted for us. So those are the only two current consultants that we have active right now. And again, that's under that budget line item for professional services. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. So I will close the public hearing, the public comment period of this item and open the floor to the commission for discussion.
Question? Second? No, I'm sorry, a question. But if you have a second question, that'd be wonderful. Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Executive Director, couple of quick questions. As you know, I am so new to LAFCO. So a couple of fundamental questions. One is, on any other public body that I have the privilege of serving on, the thought that year over year, you could have a budget that does everything 1 year after the previous year, but you only have to increase spending by 1%. I am curious how that's possible in that every expense is going up, presumably that you're engaged in, whether it's salaries and benefits, whether it is the issues around retirement issues, et cetera, or simply the cost of doing business
Right.
overall. So I'm both impressed and curious about how that's possible. If you could take a moment on that.
Great
Thank
question.
you.
So this is something where your staff has been doing it for over 18 years. My background is finance and accounting. So I'm able to just really look at how much do we have from our funding agencies and where can we adjust the expenditures? And that's why you've seen gradually we've been doing more in-house projects and not relying on consultants. That's just one example. Other examples, we realize that we may have budgeted this current fiscal year for pension that it might have been too much. So that way we reduced it and we use that funds for another expenditure. So we look at the current funding that we receive, the current revenue source, and we look at our expenditures. And that's the reason why we've been gradually decreasing our expenditures. But at the same time, we're also utilizing our reserves. And that's something that your staff has been working with our auditors and this commission to kind of discontinue that practice. We want to make sure that our total revenue covers our total expenditures. So you'll see that even though our expenditures have gone down, we've been asking a little bit more from our funding agencies on a gradual scale. That way it's not a huge burden for our funding agencies. But the key thing that we've been able to be successful is when we do increase our budget, because if you look at our total budget, it has gone up. And that's because we've been able to really kind of emphasize that LAFCO is a resource to our local agencies. We're actually bringing something to the table. We're adding value with the limited staff that we have. So hopefully that answers your questions of the fact that we really look at our expenditures and we see where can we move money from one bucket to another to make sure that we keep it as lean as possible, but at the end of the day, still be productive. So hopefully that answers your question.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Whatever. Didn't we also have some big projects that we were doing and we had outsourced it, and now with you doing a lot more of the work, but also we don't have those big projects?
Correct. A few years ago, for example, we had $50,000 earmarked for professional services, and I think at one point we had it up to almost 100,000 because we had these big special studies that we were conducting that was outside the scope of what your staff was limited to. But again, now we've been able to really address those projects in-house, resulting in us decreasing those budget line items. So good point.
And you're also looking towards the future so that when we do increase, as we increase, we're saving, we have a fund balance or a amount of money, not in contingencies, what is it called?
We do have two reserves totaling at least 200,000, and that's kind of the magic number. We want to have at least 25% of our total budget in reserves for any contingencies or unanticipated expenses. So that's something that this commission has also implemented these last few years.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify, since Fred is new to us, that we are paying attention and not just being lean and then have an emergency and suddenly have to raise the rates.
Correct.
Yes.
I will move the recommended actions.
I'll second that.
Hold on.
Further discussion, please. Thank you, Madam Chair. Obviously, the reserve balance and the need to raise apportionments is kind of the big item in this budget. And I'm looking at attachment 5, and it shows over the next 3 or 4 years, the apportionments going up by about 30%. These are tough times for the county's budget. It's tough times for the city's budget. How does that look realistically? Are we going to be able to do that? And do we have buy-in from the cities and counties who are going to be paying the apportionments?
Yeah, so the 3-year projections attachment in your packet, I do increase the expenditures by CPI, which I believe is 3%. So hypothetically, under these projections, the total allocation amounts would increase by a significant amount. But again, these are merely projections. This is assuming we were not going to utilize our reserves to cover or balance the budget. That would be the true cost to our funding agencies. But the reality is, if we were to increase the total apportionments to our funding agencies, it has to be a gradual scale. It can't be, okay, this year we froze it, but next year we're going to increase it by 30%. That's just not a practice that your staff would recommend. But this is something that I continue to provide as a informational item for this commission to see that eventually it's going to be increasing. And this is just an example of how hypothetically the projections may look.
So if I could follow up, then obviously to keep the budget balanced, we either need to increase the apportionments or reduce costs. And I'm just wondering what kind of a lift it's going to be over the next 3 or 4 years to get that large of an increase in the apportionments. It's just something you work on for the next 3 years, and you anticipate that's going to go well.
Yeah, so if I'm going to go back to one of my tables. So as you can see here, we've been increasing the apportion amounts over the last 5-6 years, and again gradually. So we're slowly not relying on our total reserves and increasing the total apportionment. So this is the kind of the scale that I was referring to, that we're going to just slowly continue to increase the apportions. But again, we want to be mindful of the agencies, and that's why you've seen for 2019 to 2022. We kept it frozen for 3 years, and then we increased it, and we froze it for 3 years. And so we're going to continue that practice as much as we can. And I think it's something that the funding agencies really appreciate, because we're being mindful of their limited budgets as well.
Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, I have one.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that very much as a special district representative, because over the years, we have had some years where it was increased, and then the next year it wasn't. But then the debate was to give money back to the districts. And so it's nice to see that over the last few years, we've gotten away from that, because I think a steady amount to deal with in your budgets for the special districts especially, and I'm sure the cities and the counties, is more preferable.
And that's what I've heard as well from our funding agencies.
Can you remind us again what the reserve policy is?
So we have a contingency reserve. So that is for any unanticipated expenditures. That's a minimum balance of $100,000. We also have litigation reserves in case of any type of lawsuit, or we need additional legal funding. That's a minimum of $100,000 as well. As of right now, our total reserves, including unrestricted funds, we're looking at around $300,000. So $200,000 dedicated to those two reserves, and the remaining $100,000 of unrestricted that we can use. That's a carryover amount, which is what we're using to balance the budget for fiscal year 26-27.
And so what is it going to be in 26-27 if you're using it to balance it?
We are proposing to utilize $295,000 to balance the budget, and then again that covers the total reserves amount, and as well as the unrestricted funds that we currently have, which has been the historical practice that we've been doing these last 20 plus years.
Yeah. Okay. I have my own theories on how to balance budgets, but I don't believe in necessarily using up reserves. So I just want to make sure we have reserves. I know we do, but when you started talking about this philosophy, I want to make sure I encourage this concept of having reserves, because we don't know when there's going to be an emergency.
Correct. And Madam Chair, I will remind that we do have a motion on the floor in a second, but I'll defer to you if you want to continue the discussion or take action.
What did he say?
Call the question. So ask the commission to vote on it.
Okay. I'm going to learn some new things from you, Mr. Keeley. Is your motion and second still good?
Yes.
Okay, so we have a motion from Manu Koenig, second from Jim Anderson. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any against? Okay, let's move on to the next item, which is Other business.
Correct.
Pajaro Valley Healthcare District Annual Report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is going to be another brief presentation. So as the commission recalls, we did a service review for the only healthcare district in our county back in November. Based on our analysis, there were some areas of concerns for this healthcare district, which is, again, was not created by LAFCO. It was created through special legislation. And as part of that service review, the commission directed staff to coordinate with the healthcare district staff or representatives to provide this commission regular updates on how they're doing. Because one of the key issues that we noticed in our report was that they were fiscally distressed. Since inception, they've been in the red. They have annual deficits, and that has not changed. And as part of this staff report, they provided us an update on their operations and their finances. Based on their information, their unaudited data for 2025 shows that they will continue to have this deficit up to $23 million. That is a concern. And so the key thing for a special district to be successful is their fiscal sustainability. And it's just a perfect storm of what the healthcare district is experiencing right now with the lack of funding and just the cost of operating a hospital. So this is something where your staff still has concerns. We're bringing this up as an update, so no action is required. But we're going to continue working with the healthcare district to provide any type of assistance. It's my understanding that they're looking for strategic partners to see if they can find ways to kind of offset expenses. So that's something that we encourage them to do. But again, they have not turned a corner yet. And we're hoping that at our next update, which is going to be 6 months from now, to see has there been any improvement. So this is an item that staff is just requiring the commission to receive and file this report that they provided LAFCO and direct us to continue working with the healthcare district as they look for ways to improve. Madam Chair, that concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you.
Question?
Oh, it's time for public comment. I'll open the floor to public comment at this time.
Thank you for this report, Becky Steinbruner from District 2. I continue to be concerned about the Watsonville Hospital. It's an excellent hospital, and my doctor always recommends that I go there because they have a much lower level of drug-resistant staph infection. So what I want to bring to your commission this morning is 2 pieces of information. In the most recent Aptos Times, there is an article about the South County property tax error confuses homeowners. So I will leave this with you for your review. But what this talks about is a huge error by the county in assessing parcels within this Pajaro Valley Healthcare District, following up on Measure N, that was a $116 million bond for maintenance and upgrades of the hospital. This was brought to the county supervisors, Board of Supervisors' attention on December 16th of last year. It was in the consent agenda, but thankfully, 2nd District Supervisor, County Supervisor Kim DeSerpa brought it to the light that the errors had omitted 5,000 parcels that should have been assessed and overcharged 19,000 parcels. So this is a big problem. And this article in the Aptos Times talks about interviewing people who have received these kind of out of the blue errors. And if you look at the Santa Cruz County Assessor's website, there is a big in red notice about this issue. I don't know how that will affect the Watsonville Hospital and their budget, but Measure N can only be used for maintenance and upgrades. And I'm not sure that that's all that needs to be addressed in their $23 million deficit. I also, when this came to LAFCO, it was a kind of an upside down process, as Director Serrano referenced. It was not formed by LAFCO, it was formed by legislative action. And at that time, there were overlaps with the Salinas Valley Hospital District also charging assessments. So I never really understood if that was resolved, if that's part of this problem, or what caused this problem. Supervisor DeSerpa has asked for a follow-up report of why this happened, but I have not heard that in any of the County Board of Supervisor meetings. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other public comments?
No, ma'am.
Okay, and did you have anything to say or?
No, this is what we'll do is we'll continue coordinating with the healthcare district and we'll provide another update later this year.
Okay, so I'll close public comment and open it to our commissioners. Commissioner Keeley, you had something?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Would you be kind enough to help me understand the role of this agency and the hospital district? The reason I ask that question is it seems to me that the district or the hospital anyway, given decisions that are being made at the federal level and that will cascade down to the state level with regard to some of the core funding around Medicaid, which we call Medi-Cal, which we call the Alliance, and how that works. As I understand it, the district is in distress financially, and that is not unusual around the country with similar size operations, and hospitals, rural hospitals generally in the nation, are undergoing tremendous stress. And so two questions really. One is there's repeated reference to how we are coordinating with, et cetera. They have, I don't want to overstate it. This is, I'm not deeply familiar with their finances. But what I do know, or I think I know, is that they are actively engaging in Sacramento and elsewhere, and with our federal legislative delegation and so on, that the way it is framed up, they are on not a great path, shall we say. So when this institution says we're coordinating with them or providing assistance, seems to me this isn't just some 1 year or whatever blip in a problem for them. It seems that they are fighting for their very existence. So what is it we do to coordinate and help?
Sure. Really good question. So for LAFCO, we have purview over the jurisdictional boundaries of these special districts in this county, including the healthcare district. So when they were formed back in 2022 or so under SB 969, it made it clear that this healthcare district is under the oversight of LAFCO. So what does that mean? This commission, the purpose why LAFCOs are here is to determine who's the most logical provider of public services, including healthcare districts, and determining their service area. But what's interesting is that typically special districts, when they want to form and provide services to a particular area, they go through the LAFCO process, and we check to see is this feasible? What type of services they're going to provide? How are they going to provide it? So all those kind of legal hoops that we jump through, we come to this conclusion of this makes sense to form this special district to provide this service. We didn't go through that practice, but under SB 969, it made it clear that LAFCO, you play a role. And this district is going to form to save this hospital. But there's language in there that says if the healthcare district that is now overseeing this hospital transfers responsibilities to someone else, LAFCO, you are mandatorily required to dissolve them. So this is the reason why your staff is coordinating with the hospital, because I am encouraging them to look for alternative ways to make this work. We want them to succeed, but we also have to remind them that if they do transfer responsibilities to an extent, then that may trigger that legal requirement of LAFCO. We need to dissolve them, because what's the point of having a hospital district if someone else is doing the work? That's why LAFCO is playing this unique, more direct role with the healthcare district, because we want to make sure that they are fulfilling the requirements under their code section, and we can, again, be a partner and assist them. So it's something that we are looking at, because the worst case scenario, if we do have to dissolve them, what happens to the hospital? What happens to the residents that are relying on that essential service? And that's why when they were forming this proposed bill a couple of years ago, LAFCO offered an alternative. Why not annex this area into a neighboring healthcare district like Salinas Valley Memorial, which is in Monterey County? That did not come to fruition, but those are the types of ideas I think are still at the table, and something we need to look into. And LAFCO is one of those outside perspectives saying there's other alternatives. It might not be easy or feasible, but we are already looking ahead of possible options in the event that the solution's on the table. And if this healthcare district fails, for whatever reason, then LAFCO will play a role in that dissolution process.
If I might, thank you. Thank you. That's quite helpful. From our point of view, from this agency's point of view, because where you stand depends on where you sit. And so where we sit versus the governing board of the district or the hospital or whatever it may be, everybody's got their point of view about this. So from our point of view, are we engaged in affirmatively trying to, in effect, save the district, save the hospital? Is that what we are managing towards here? Is that our job in some way?
Our role is to ensure that the residents get the best level of service, in this case, from the healthcare district. So we want the healthcare district to succeed. That's kind of our goal. So for LAFCO staff, we're being proactive, because there's the reality is some LAFCOs just say, this is not our problem. You figure it out. And if you guys succeed, great. If you guys fail, then we'll dissolve you. We have been successful these last couple of years with our special districts because we play a proactive role. We say, there's areas of improvement, there's areas of concerns. Here's some alternative options for you to consider. We're more than happy to help you explore those options, but they're still in the driver's seat. It's a practice that we've been successful in Santa Cruz County, and we're relaying it to the healthcare district, that we are trying to be a resource to you. But the reality is, we can't identify revenues for them. We can't implement partnerships for them. They have to take that responsibility. But if there's any way that LAFCO staff or LAFCO as a whole can provide assistance, that's what we're looking for. What can we do to help? That's something that we've been trying to accomplish these last 12 months or so.
So thank you again for that. So how would you I would characterize their problem as a surprising fiscal problem. Many externalities they cannot control. And so that's the heart of their problem, it seems to me, is that there's externalities they can't control. And a population they are obligated to serve. And so those two are currently in conflict with each other, and the short-term horizon looks pretty bleak in that regard in terms of the funding sources, population to be served. So when you say we are examining with them or on behalf of them alternatives to the district, because the district is insufficient in terms of its funding to be able to provide the hospital the resources it needs, am I correctly characterizing what the problem is?
So you're correct. It's mainly a fiscal issue.
So in that regard, is the assessment or tax or fee or whatever the entity is allowed to collect from the residents of the district. I'm assuming that body, not us, but that body establishes what that rate and what that base is. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Do they have unfettered authority to establish that rate to, if they chose to, if they have a problem this big, they could set their rate where they will in order to solve that problem? Or do they have, in effect, a cap irrespective of how big their fiscal problem is?
Good question. I would have to defer to the healthcare district to see if there's any restrictions on how they would be able to do an assessment or special tax, because I don't have that information off the top of my head.
And then my last question, Madam Chair. Thank you. Thank you again, sir, for the answer to the previous questions. When you say that this body is assisting them with options or alternatives, presumably that's because we know whatever the delta is, or we are accepting from them whatever their delta problem is between revenue and expenditures at the level they would like it to be in order to fund a hospital and all of its services.
Right.
So what is that delta that you are then saying, we're interested in assisting you at looking at alternatives? I'm assuming that is alternatives to the status quo, where they have taxing authority or revenue authority, and they still have a fiscal problem. So when you say we are assisting them in seeking alternatives, do we know what problem we're trying to help them solve? Is that a $1 million problem, a $30 million problem? What is that we're trying to, and then what would be an example of some of those alternatives we might help them with?
Right. So, so under LAFCO law or state law, this commission is required to do an analysis every 5 years. And so this is why your staff is not waiting for 2030 to see what's your problems, what are areas of improvements, what are possible solutions for you. We're doing them now. Not because we're required by law, it's because we feel like that's just a form of good government. To answer your question about the delta, this is something where they have a fiscal issue. That's the primary issue that they're facing right now. But there's also something that LAFCO is trying to provide them is, if you're not successful of addressing that fiscal issue, what are your next steps? What are your possible changes of organization? Is it a merger with a neighboring healthcare district? Is it transferring responsibilities to a private entity? This is something where we can provide assistance in examining or evaluating those options. Again, this is something that instead of waiting 5 years from now, we're having those discussions now.
I think that's a, pardon me?
Nothing. I was going to ask a question.
Okay, if I.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay,
You
thank
said
you.
your last one, so I thought you meant
Pardon me?
it. You told me that was your last question, so I thought you meant it.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I'll probably say that 5 more times, my last question. Thank you. Mr. Serrano, so let me go back to the question that I asked here on this one. What is the bogey we're trying to hit? What is the deficit? What is the number, the size problem, in order for you to evaluate whether there are alternatives to that? If the problem's this big, there might be 2 alternatives. If the problem's this big, it might be 20 alternatives. So we have to know what we're managing towards in order to be of assistance.
Right.
What is the size of the problem we're trying to help them solve?
Well, that's the reason why we're doing these status updates, because we want to see like what are they addressing, and based on those status updates, then we can see whether or not we can provide further assistance. So that's something that where I defer to the district themselves to see. And unfortunately, they're not joining us today. Of what is how are they addressing their fiscal problems and what other problems that they're facing? That's something where I can't articulate what that number is.
So just for clarity purposes, then, we don't know, or we're not aware at this moment whether this is a $1 million problem or a $20 million problem. We don't know what the size of the problem is that we might be of assistance in solving.
Yeah, right now we know based on our service review that their deficits have ranged from $23 to $30 million a year. So we know it's a multi-million-dollar problem. And as we got in our last update, it's a $23, $25 million deficit. So that's something that needs to be addressed. And again, this is something where they were anticipating receiving federal aid with Medi-Cal or Medicaid, and that just did not come to fruition. And so that's something that's impacting them. And whether or not that gets addressed in the near future, time will tell. But they are having fiscal issues, and this is where LAFCO can assist in the revenue aspect, but we're looking at the governance point of view.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Chair.
I guess we're more facilitators. We're not
At the
there
moment.
to lead anything.
That is correct,
And if
Madam
they
Chair.
need us to facilitate conversations with others, we are there for them.
Exactly.
Okay.
Good point.
Anybody else?
As a matter of fact, I believe they've been getting better since inception, though. Their finances have improved year over year, even though they're in the negative. Is that not what I heard before?
There have seen some improvements, but overall, they're still fiscally distressed.
Right.
But
And-
they're having little wins here and there, which is it's a good sign. But for LAFCO, we're looking at the bigger picture, their
Sure.
sustainability.
And then the other thing, part of it I've sat in on a couple of their meetings, and I know that they've been investigating partnerships with other people. And then I have just heard recently that they're doing some stuff with UCSF. But there was recently an article or a segment on the news where they interviewed the CFO, who said they had gone from millions of dollars deficit to plus 90,000 this year. I don't know if you can shed some light on that, but he said he attributed it to more volume, because just like, I'm in the fire service, high volume creates more problems for us because it's more expense. And so they have more revenue coming in now because people are coming back. I guess one of the things they had conversation about before was with the immigration stuff. A lot of people were staying away from the hospital,
Right.
and now they're seeing the return of those people. So they're generating more revenue by the income from that. And then they were expecting some more financial help from, I think it was the federal government that was pending for them, that they felt pretty secure about.
Yeah, I also saw that interview with the CEO of the healthcare district indicating a revenue surplus. I would defer to the audited financial statements to determine whether or not that is going to be a surplus. If it is, great, then they're turning the corner. But based on their financial statements, they're still struggling at the moment.
Okay.
Yes.
Mr. Serrano, could you give me a very brief overview of the impact of the cyber attack, both in terms of the initial cyber attack and in terms of what it's costing to repair that vulnerability and whether that's been successful?
I unfortunately I don't know the severity of that cyber attack, and again, unfortunately, their representative was unable to attend. So I will have to follow up with that because I just don't know how impactful that was.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? So this item does require a motion. Do I have a motion?
I'll move the recommended action.
I'll second that.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Seeing none, we'll move on to the next item, which is fiscal year-end audit report. Staff presentation, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As a reminder, this commission hired Davis Farr LLP to provide us auditing services. It's a 6-year contract with them. This is the first. Last year was the first time ever that we did an independent audit for this LAFCO, and I really applaud this commission because we are very vocal to our local agencies of you need to be transparent. We need to see that information that the public is accessible to. So we're practicing what we preach with these audits. So this is our second audit that looked at fiscal year 24-25, and I will introduce the point person from the auditing firm, Ms. Shannon Ayala, who will be giving you just a brief presentation on this audit that she recently completed with her team. So I'm going to defer to Ms. Shannon.
Good morning. Thank you very much for the introduction. As Mr. Serrano mentioned, I'm here to report on the audit results for the fiscal year ended June 30, 2025. If you could go to the next slide, please. Just a reminder that the auditor's responsibilities are to audit the LAFCO's financial statements in accordance with generally accepted auditing standards, and to plan the audit to express an opinion as to whether management's financial statements are fairly presented in all material respects and in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. Next slide, please. So as a result of the work we performed, we did issue an unmodified opinion on the financial statements dated February 24th, 2026. That indicates that the financial statements are fairly presented in all material respects. And I will have you note that there was an emphasis of matter paragraph for the implementation of a new accounting standard, which I will briefly touch on in a later slide. This was GASB 103. It's related to the accrued vacation and sick time, also known as compensated absences. The unmodified opinion is the highest level of opinion that can be received on the financial statements. And then we also issue the communication to those in governance letter, which is sort of an end of audit letter that wraps up the work that we did, indicates if there are any significant accounting estimates or disclosures, of which pension is noted in there as those items. And then we also issue the government auditing standards opinion, and that's also known as the internal control letter. And I'll share a little bit more on that also on a later slide. So our standard audit approach for the audit is to substantively test all the material assets and liabilities, and then we analytically test the material revenues and expenses. So for the assets, we confirm cash accounts, and then we obtain additional supporting documentation for the balances on the statements. And then year over year, we test the revenues and expenses analytically. So we review the changes in revenues and expenses, and then obtain additional information from the management team related to those changes, as well as cooperating documentation. Our materiality this year was 2% of revenue, and the additional areas of focus were GASB 101 compensated absences, and then management override of controls. And apologies, I think I referred to the new accounting standard as GASB 103 in the previous slide. That's actually an upcoming accounting standard that will be implemented in the current year. So the change for GASB 101, the change for GASB 101 related to compensated absences. This standard works to make compensated absences a more complete number. So previously, only amounts paid out for accrued vacation or accrued sick time were required to be reported in the financial statements, and the related payroll taxes were not required. With the implementation of the new accounting standard, it does add payroll taxes to this liability, as well as adds sick time that is more likely than not to be used. So even if time is not paid out upon separation from the LAFCO, we still evaluate what time is actually used for sick time and other compensated time off, and estimate a liability for that. It did result in an increase in the liability, as well as a prior period adjustment, which is noted in notes 2 and 8 to the financial statements. And then management override of controls. This is an inherent risk that auditing standards require be considered as a risk area to review. And this is essentially not not a risk that we think anything bad is happening or anyone is doing anything that they shouldn't be doing. It's just an inherent risk that essentially, due to the nature of management having access to everything, the fact that are able to override controls that may be in place. So to review this, we look at transactions at the end of the year. We do testing over journal entry, non-recurring journal entries, to ensure that, proper controls were followed, there are no overrides, and that the journal entries are properly supported. And I just want to note that we did not have any exceptions as a result of that testing. And then next slide. So then the audit results were that Mr. Serrano and his team were prepared for the audit and responsive to our inquiries. We did not have any material journal entries detected as a result of our procedures, and that there were no instances of non-compliance identified. We also did not have any material weaknesses or significant deficiencies in internal controls noted. And next slide. And with that, I can answer any questions that you may have over the audit process or the results.
Madam Chair, I just want to take this opportunity to thank Ms. Shannon and her team, specifically Mr. Landon and Ms. Christina. They were great. They definitely kept staff on our toes, asking questions and requesting data. So we had to make sure that we had all the information. So I'm really proud with the outcome of this audit. But I did want to thank her team for completing this audit for fiscal year 24-25. Staff is recommending that this commission adopt the proposed audit for fiscal year 24-25. And as Ms. Shannon mentioned, her and I are available to answer any questions. So thank you.
Thank you. So I'm opening the floor to public comment. Is there any public comment on this item? Anybody online?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so then we can bring it to the floor for the board to close public comment and bring it to the floor for the board to discuss. Or sorry, the commission. I forgot which hat I'm wearing. Is there somebody down there? No. There's no discussion. Do I have a motion?
I'll move recommended action.
Jim Anderson's moved recommended action.
Second.
Manu Koenig will second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Seeing none, we will move on.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank you, Ms.
much.
Shannon.
So we're on the employee performance evaluation. Can I have staff presentation, please?
Thank you, Madam Chair. As a reminder, this commission conducted a closed session at our last meeting on March 4th, reviewing and discussing your staff's performance during the 2025 calendar year. Based on the discussion, your legal counsel drafted or helped staff draft a resolution indicating that both your staff members will receive a 3% increase for cost of living, as well as your analyst getting an additional 3% for his performance in 2025. So this draft resolution reflects that discussion that the commission had in the closed session. Madam Chair, staff is recommending that you approve that draft resolution for the proposed salary increases, and your staff will coordinate with the county to implement those changes to our salaries.
Thank you. Is there any public comment on this item?
Thank you, Becky Steinbruner. I just want to commend Mr. Serrano and Mr. Estrada for their good work. The quality of the reports, the sphere and service review reports, is so superior to what has been done in the past. They really are excellent, and I know it's a tremendous amount of work, but it is a good level of information for the public, and I know that you work hard on them. So thank you very much for your good work. I really appreciate you and all that you do. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we can bring the item to the floor for board questions and close public comment. Any questions? Lonnie, you have that look on your face.
I just wanted to reiterate in a way what Becky just stated. I think that this is an incredibly professional group of administrators, and I really appreciate your hard work and the way you interface with us as commissioners and with the public. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
I'll move recommended action.
I just had a quick comment.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I just also want to express my appreciation for all the work that you all have done over the years. And I think this is, reasonable ask in terms of the cost of living adjustment and the salary increase. And then also want to thank Mr. Estrada for your work with helping the Monterey LAFCO out over the past couple of years. In addition to all the work that you've been doing here, helping them get off the ground, I think is really beneficial in making sure that our neighbor LAFCOs are all working together and that they're learning from a very high functioning LAFCO here in Santa Cruz that we have. So just want to thank you all for your hard work and continue on.
Well, I'm sorry Roger's not here because he was the good cop and I was bad cop in the committee. And I'm not quite as good as him at thanking people, but I am very impressed with your work, and we put a lot of time and thought into your, I think we met 3 times, right, rather than 2, to make sure that it was appropriate report. So thank you so much. So we have a motion and a second by Justin Cummings. And all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, we will move on to the next item. It was Jim. I was testing you. So now we're coming to close to the end. Written correspondence. Do you have any?
The fire related item, and I can give you a brief update on that.
Oh, sorry, I've already circled it as if I'd done it. Okay.
Just quickly, your staff continues to work on a number of different fire related projects, and there's 4 in particular that I wanted to provide an update to this commission. The first one is we were initially scheduled to conduct a educational workshop for the Pajaro Valley community about this proposed reorganization that would dissolve PB Fire and concurrently annex that area to CSA 48. That was initially scheduled for March 31st, but we decided to move that to sometime in late April, give us more time to send out flyers and advertise this workshop. So we continue to coordinate with the county and PB Fire to inform the residents why this is happening, the financial impact to the residents, and more importantly, answer any questions that they have. So that's something that your staff will be doing later this month. The second item is this commission created a ad hoc committee to provide assistance to staff on these various fire-related projects. We are tentatively scheduled to meet with that committee sometime this month. One of the particular items that I want to discuss with the committee members is this countywide fire report that your staff has been working on these last couple of months. As you may recall, we did a countywide fire report back in 2021 in compliance with state law. It's been 5 years since we did that report, so we're conducting a new one for this year, and I want to bounce off some ideas to the committee before we distribute the administrative copy to the affected agencies and before we publish it for commission consideration. So that's going to happen sometime this month. The third item is what I just mentioned. We are working on this countywide fire report. The goal is to provide a copy to the fire agencies by next week and present the final version of that report to this commission for discussion and adoption in June. And the last thing I wanted to inform this commission is that your staff was invited to present at the Fire Districts Association of California, FDAC. They're having their annual conference in Seaside later this month. They have a breakout session about what is LAFCO and demystifying LAFCO to fire agencies. what I've been hearing from my colleagues around the state is that there's a lot of fire chiefs and fire agents talking about the good work that LAFCO is doing around the state. And Santa Cruz LAFCO keeps coming up of how we have really kind of changed that mentality of LAFCO's not a threat. LAFCO actually wants us to succeed, and they're not trying to get rid of us. And so that's why we were invited to kind of give examples of how LAFCO is not this obscure agency anymore. We actually are trying to help them succeed. So I'm very, very happy to make that presentation later this month in Seaside. Madam Chair, those were the quick updates I wanted to provide. This item does not require any action, so this is just informational item. So I'll defer to you if you have any questions.
Thank you. Do we have any public comments on this item?
Thank you for the update, Mr. Serrano. My name is Becky Steinbruner, and I'm following this issue carefully because I really care. So I attend different fire district board meetings, and I was quite surprised to learn that last night's Pajaro Valley Fire Workshop had been canceled. It had been discussed at their board meeting earlier in March, and there was no indication of that at all. So I was quite surprised, but I'm happy to hear that it will be better noticed. I would like to ask that it be made available in hybrid format, and also that there be some legal counsel there, because those sorts of questions are going to come up. So I also haven't heard you say anything about Felton Fire. Yesterday there was an article put out, published by the San Lorenzo Valley Press, author Mary Anderson, talking about this, and she issued some dates of those public workshops, and also an analysis of what is going on with Felton. So I hope that you will also give this commission an update about Felton Fire, because it is a huge issue up in the valley. Finally, regarding the county fire department, this is CSA 48. I have been examining some of the CSA 48 2020 special benefit assessments, and they are very questionable. I am within the CSA 48 area boundaries, and so I've been watching this, and what I see now is that the reports of assessments on the Santa Cruz County Fire Department website do not comport with what people are actually being assessed. And I also want to take issue that in this report, and also Chief Blum at Felton last month said that none of the state or county-owned properties would be assessed. That is not true. They can be assessed. In the engineer's report of CSA 48 2020, it said there are no exemptions. Utilities, government-owned property is not exempt. The problem is that Santa Cruz County is not billing these state agencies and county agencies for CSA 48 2020 assessments. In the rolls, it says 0 for all of these, and I'm looking up the
Becky,
parcel
your
numbers.
time is up.
Okay, this really needs to be looked at because there's some big problems. Thank you.
You very much. So now we'll close public comment unless there was another
No, ma'am.
person. Okay. And bring this item to the commission. I had to take a breath there. Does anybody have a question or comment? Justin Cummings?
Yeah, thanks for that presentation. Just real quick, maybe I missed this, but the countywide fire report, when is that likely going to come to the commissioner? When's that going to be published?
Yes, so the goal is to provide a draft copy to the fire agency so they can review and make sure that everything's accurate. But our goal is to present it to this commission in June. So we got a few more months.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, this does not require any vote, so we will move on to written. Oh, I'm sorry.
So I hear that that we'll be receiving this in June, and then according to your report, we as fire agency board members will receive it this month in April, the draft. Is that correct?
The fire agencies will receive a draft copy, but I want to make it clear that when by law, LAFCO is not required to provide a draft copy to the agencies, but that's a practice that your staff has been doing these last couple of years. But it's an internal review, so it's going to be sent out to your fire chiefs and their staff for review. Again, it's an internal review, so it won't be presented to the board members because, again, I don't want to have circulated draft copies because this is an opportunity for the agencies to provide feedback and make sure that LAFCO's conclusions, findings, recommendations, they have an opportunity to provide additional context, and that may modify our findings or recommendations based on the feedback we get from your staff and your fire chiefs. But I always make it clear, I leave a disclaimer of do not share this with the public or your board members because it is a draft copy.
Great. Thank you for that clarification, and I look forward to seeing you at FDAC.
Great.
Okay, so now we can move on. I
Yes,
better
ma'am.
look around to written correspondence.
And Madam Chair, we have not received any written correspondence.
Okay, so we can move to the next item, which is press articles.
And these are just articles that we felt were relevant to the commission, but no, this is an information item, so no commission discussion is required.
Okay, so let's move on to commissioners' business. Are there any commissioners that have anything that they'd like to share or discuss? We did, I guess my one thing would be that we had our first California Special District Association meeting for the local chapter. And I'm the president, so that's why I'm very interested in us having a chapter here. So all the special districts have a forum where we can talk together about our issues and learn. So if anybody has any items they think we should have in the next meeting, which will be in the fall, just let me know. And I'm looking for speakers.
I have a quick question because typically we'll see some of these notifications that are coming through our board email, and I don't recall that seeing that, and I don't know if you're sending that to all special district boards.
It's my understanding that CSDA does the noticing. So that's something I can coordinate with our CSDA representative to make sure that the local agencies are receiving it.
That would be great. Thank
Right.
you.
Okay.
Oh, good. Because we have a list. We have a list, but that doesn't mean everybody's on it. So it's our first meeting. We did our best. It was quite interesting. Our speaker canceled at the last minute.
Oh,
They had
no.
been hurt and couldn't drive from Sacramento, and we had to scramble.
Oh, shoot.
So, but the best part was the Pajaro Health District donated their room for us to use it for the meeting.
Great.
And I really appreciate that. Okay, that's it for me. If there's nobody else, we can adjourn the meeting.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
My
Thank you,
Mani
Commissioner.
Koenig. You always.